This week, we recap The Last of Us, celebrate Mario Day, and take to our Gundam suit in the weekend rental. I'm Ryan,
I'm Andy.
and this is Weekend Rental, episode 147. All right, so we might as well just jump right in. I know that our listeners are just dying to hear what we thought of the conclusion to the HBO Last of Us series. We finally got the last episode. Um, I know I had some questions for you as someone who'd beaten the game, and I didn't. I dropped off probably a third of the way in. It seemed like a good episode. It seemed like a cliff-endery video game ending, but it left me unsure if they ended it prior or if that's how the game ended. And after watching some clips, I guess, and talking with you, pretty much shot for shot, they just did the thing.
They've remastered The Last of Us 1 again.
And then it's going to be remastered and available to play in 2 months. So,
yeah, that last episode it's unbelievable how shot for shot. I mean, that last dialogue is almost verbatim the scene.
I'd say the last 10 minutes, everything is just mirrored to a T.
Yep.
Like, it's great. Which you hadn't really seen since the first couple episodes, where I would say like the second half of that first episode, and then for sure the second episode was like, yeah, scene for scene, like narrative, like it was crazy to see. And it's also impressive to see something that moving in a TV show and then realize that they had to do nothing for it other than just like sub in live actors.
Yep.
You know, that says a lot about the source material, I think.
Yeah, that definitely does. It's kind of wild, like how not many zombies were in it overall.
That's true.
I mean,
when
you're playing the game, that's the gameplay is the zombies.
Yep.
And traversal, I guess, but yeah, it's mostly just I can't think of a real scene since that one where they were in the museum. That was like the main one that they were actually had an encounter with zombies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was the city explosion in like Philly or whatever that was.
Yeah.
That was also pretty early on.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they gloss over a lot of it. And like you have to assume that they went through hell, and they kind of hint at that. Like, if she's like, I don't want to turn back. It can't all be for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But I also was really pleased in watching the series to understand that we could have native thriving baboon and giraffe populations in North America. So I don't know what we're doing here. Like, when can we get that started? Can we just let them start free roaming?
You just let them out.
Yeah. Why are we keeping them in zoos?
Yeah.
I want to walk out on my balcony and feed a giraffe a leaf, and that could be my morning. Have a cup of coffee.
Oh. Where are the lions, though?
I know, that's what I kept thinking. Is like, where's everything else? Like, there's some species that could have survived this. Like, tigers are well suited for this climate.
Yeah, that would be an encounter for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. I liked the last episode quite a bit because I mean it is pretty much just the ending of the show. That last scene is pretty iconic because you don't know if she trusts him, if she believes him, or if she's making herself believe him. Or
I think you see it in her face, and you know that she doubts him, but that she also loves him enough that she wants to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But I think to me it comes across, even watching the game and then the show, like definitely in the show, she seems a lot more like, dude, you're full of shit. Because she kind of seemed out of it a lot more in the early part of the episode too. Like, she was definitely more distant than Ellie in game was for that time frame.
Yep.
So,
and it is cool that they had some Easter eggs where in this episode, the voice actor of Ellie in the game plays Ellie's mother.
Mm-hmm.
Joel's voice actor was in the last one.
Oh, really?
He was David's helper, his like second in command kind of guy.
You got the butcher knife in the neck.
Yep.
Okay.
That's Joel's voice actor.
Well, good luck continuing that role now without a
Yeah.
trachea. Be rough.
Yep.
That's cool. I didn't realize that. That
It
was my
got a
biggest.
lot of viewers.
Yeah, it did, and that was my biggest disappointment. Like we had talked, and obviously, I think this both of them would have aired after we recorded last, but that second to last episode, I thought was the most, for me, the most disappointing episode in the whole series because they just, they led up. It was the typical like apocalypse, like worship, like cult thing. Like it's like I know where this is going. Of course, they're eating people, and then just to build it all up into like this big baddie situation where it all resolves in like 2 minutes of fighting, like three people being killed, but then they just walk off into the sunset, even though there's a horde of not good people behind them, in theory.
Yeah, where's
It
the rest
just,
of the people there?
yeah, it just like you built up this evildoer like narrative, and it was just all resolved so casually. Also, the fact that he asked like two of those guys that weighed like 90 pounds to carry a full horse back to camp. I mean, I don't know if he's done the math on that, but horses are kind of heavy. I don't know. So I was pretty bummed off that episode. So just have the finale kind of come in strong, although short. Like I wish they'd have taken a little more narrative liberty maybe and just kind of I don't know. I don't know. I mean, they could have done something. It just felt 44 minutes for a finale. Like you're waiting for it, and it was over so fast.
Yep.
And then that's the wrap, right? Like that's the end of the game. So until they start diving into two, which who knows
Which
how long that's going to take.
I don't know. That's a really good question on how they're going to do that because I mean you can't have Pedro Pascal play Joel and then not be in the second season.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I assume
like
he will be. They've already confirmed the actress for Ellie is back, which there's a age jump. So how do they? I mean, I guess there will be time in between, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that happens in the second one where would be very it works in a video game,
Right.
but show business would be very detrimental to the show. So I wonder if they're going to do like just make up stories of what happens between 1 and 2 because they live in like kind of a community for a number of years, I think.
Sure.
So that I think they could probably make stories of
Well,
what
and I was
happens in
reading something
between.
about how the narrative in two is very back and forth, like through cinematics and like time jumps. So it's like they could almost tell the story in like multiple orders or ways. And
Yeah.
I'm also curious too, because like resoundingly, everyone loves The Last of Us, right? And almost universally, everyone is kind of like, I'm not sure how to feel about part two. So what is
I
like how what does
the
that
first one,
translate to in the show? You know what I mean?
yeah. The first one's one of my favorite games and the second one I didn't finish. So,
Yeah.
you know.
And I've heard that from so many people. Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah,
But
it'll
maybe,
be
in a show format and you're stripping a lot of the gameplay. Because wasn't that part of the problem was like two was like a 50-hour game or like 35-hour game or something? Just super bloated.
yeah. Yeah, you kind of where I kind of stopped, it just seemed like you were resetting, like you were starting over. And that was like kind of like, oh,
Because you were there to see the conclusion, right? Like,
yeah, and it just kind of reset as a different character and you're playing starting over as that. And yeah, it was kind of rough.
yeah. I mean, I have to imagine we're getting a Last of Us Part 3 or Last of Us something after the hype of the like if let's say the next season continues to go with the numbers that they got from the first, they're not going to stop. There's no point in remastering 2 already, so they're going to have to do some sort of like side story, right? Or
Yeah, they're going to do something.
it's going to happen. Now, does a game driven by television success and bore out of that have the same depth and consequence that a experience tailor made for video games? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
does that then taint the product, I kind of have to think maybe. And there's no way there's no way that they could go back to that with the idea not in their mind that this might be adapted or will likely be adapted to cinema, right? So I think that forever changes your perspective. Although it's a very cinematic game, and that's why it makes for a great show. I just don't know. Like I'll be
I don't
curious
know.
to see.
That's yeah. I wonder when this show became a reality, because
Right.
the second one does not seem like it's very show friendly. But I mean, you can turn anything to a show, but it's not as point A to point B as the first one.
You can milk anything with nipples.
Yeah. So I wonder. So this is made by the guy that did Chernobyl, which is another excellent show. So and it's HBO. It's got a budget. PlayStation is also doing a whole bunch of other stuff, turning their stuff into shows. I just saw Peacock or something is doing a Twisted Metal show.
God, that sounds like a terrible idea.
Can you imagine?
Can I just get another game? I just want a game. A good one. I don't want a show. How does that work as a show?
Is it like a death race?
Is this actually like green lit? They're doing this?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I think they showed Sweet Tooth's fan, so.
I mean, I guess if you stick with Sweet Tooth as a murderous psychopath who then like also like gets into like vigilante like car feuds out on the road, it makes sense. But like if you introduce Calypso and a tournament and wishes, who the fuck is going to tune into that? Like that's great for a dumb video game. That isn't good for your average audience. Like that's pretty niche.
I that's what I wonder, that Sony is so high on their horse with this, that they're just assuming that everything's gonna be roses after this.
Yeah.
It's like
yeah, I think the success of this derives largely from a game that had a narrative and well written like that studio. I mean, look at their other games, and like Uncharted, and like those are the types of games that make good. Well, I shouldn't give Uncharted credit, but like those are the types of games that make good cinema. But taking something like Twisted Metal, that's an IP that you own that like barely has a functional story as a video game, that's not gonna work.
They had all those cutscenes at the end, right?
Yeah,
get all those together. Just remaster all those.
I mean, if you look at what they did with that Twisted Metal that came out on PlayStation 3, and like the actors they got to portray that, like that stuff could have made really cool short story, like horror film stuff with Sweet Tooth.
Yeah.
So if they focus on that
stuff in that one,
yeah, if they focus on that, like that was neat. Kind of do like a Sin City sort of aesthetic to it, but
yeah,
I just don't see it as like if they're bringing in the full tournament, that who's gonna buy into that?
No. Yeah, I don't.
I mean, if I'm like watching a show like that and somebody pulls up in an Indy car and then does a tornado move with a special button, I'm out. Like I'm not watching that. Like that's not gonna happen.
Yeah. There are other stuff. There are other big stuff like Horizon and God of War, I think, are really interesting things you could make a show or movie about.
Right.
I wouldn't adapt one of the games, maybe, but
right. Yeah, Horizon has potential, but I don't know. Horizon's a story already told, though, too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
By the time you go full circle on that, I've seen movies that have done that. Just because you sprinkle a little more Dances with Wolves into it doesn't make it a different thing.
It's
as much as they tried to make it feel like that.
Yeah.
You know? It's still Terminator.
It's a lot of Planet of the Apes, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, there's that movie that came on not that long ago where it's like the same exact concept, I think, where that AI robot raises that girl and then the girl finally becomes aware of like what the robot's done. I mean, it's all the same sort of context in a different scale. So Horizon could easily be a movie, though. I thought they were doing something with that, like a series.
I'm sure they are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as much as I'm all for more of that, I think it's nice to see non-gaming culture embrace like a very good game in the way that they have with The Last of Us, but I don't expect that to be. I think this is very much the exception to the rule, right? I don't think we're going to get this lucky going forward with everything. If the Need for
Okay.
Speeds and Prince of Persias of the world have taught us anything,
Oh man, it's. I think we're heading that way again.
let's get Jake
Here's a
Gyllenhaal
list I
back.
found.
No,
Got Uncharted, which has come out. The Last of
which
Us has
sucks.
come out.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I did see this. Gran Turismo's the next thing, which is whatever. I guess you could make a racing
Okay,
movie
you're
out of
gonna
that.
race cars. Cool. Do they not take
But,
damage? Are they magic cars?
that would be pretty good. There's no consequence to
No,
anything.
nothing matters. You just run around the oval track with your gas pedal down. You don't steer. Hands off the wheel.
Yeah, Twisted Metal, who it's developed by the Deadpool and Zombieland writers, so that could be interesting.
I don't know if you've seen Zombieland 2. I don't have a whole lot of
Yeah.
faith.
God of War, Horizon.
God of War
Gravity.
is a movie that doesn't need to be made into a movie. Like, just put the game on cinematics only mode or whatever.
Yeah. Gravity Rush. What?
Well, okay.
That must
I
be.
mean, that's basically anime anyway, I guess. So
yeah,
sure.
I was gonna say that's probably an anime. I don't
Yep.
know. Jack and Daxter. What?
I can see that too.
Okay, I think we're we might be getting into just
I mean,
fan theories at this
let's
point.
not forget that god awful Ratchet and Clank movie that they put out. That was an actual movie in
Yeah.
theaters. And that is probably one of the most putrid things I've ever seen.
They put that in it. Wasn't that the game though? Like I think they took the
It was from one of the games.
cutscenes from the games, and then they.
But it was
like,
an actual
stitched
movie.
it together.
They put it in
Yeah.
theaters. It was terrible. It was
Yeah.
not enjoyable. My kids hated it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they already don't have the best track record. I'm just saying. It'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. But I think we can both agree that everyone should watch The Last of Us. The complete
Yep.
season as soon as you can. It's good. Speaking of movies and things that are probably not good, I watched that stupid M. Night Shyamalan Knock at the Cabin movie. What a flaming pile of dog shit that movie is. So the trailers basically set it up to where like these cultist or crazy people come to a cabin and there's a family in there. It just so happens to be two dudes and their adopted daughter. So I'm not sure if that's like social commentary. I'm sure it was supposed to be. Doesn't really play any relevance in the story though. And they're like, one of you has to kill one of you and you have to decide. Otherwise humanity will perish. And like, okay. And then like these guys, like the four people start offing themselves in front of the family. They're like, humanity's been judged. And then they'll like turn on the television and like planes are falling out of the sky. And that's the movie basically. And then it's an M. Night Shyamalan movie, so you're waiting for the twist. And then like the twist is like, no, he played it straight. And like this is what's happening the whole time. So you're waiting for it to like get interesting, and it just doesn't, and it just keeps happening. And then the apocalypse comes and somebody kills somebody to like save her. It's the worst. It's so bad. Like it's just another one. Like we've talked about this, like when you watch movies that just don't value the audience's time, and that is this 100%. Like there's nothing of substance in it. There's no like moral like story to be learned about like how we can like humanity can save themselves. There's a little bit of content and like insight into like maybe going in like internet like forums and like getting worked up about shared experiences with strangers is probably not the best thing. But when it happens to be true in the context of this movie, I can't say that that's a lesson learned. Because
Yeah.
it turns out they were right. So I guess you're supposed to believe everything you read on your Facebook friends group about like how space lasers are targeting people from Jews and like I don't know.
Is this did Q make this movie?
Pretty much, I'd
Wow.
assume so. And then and then it just ends, and then they just ride off into the sunset. I mean, those that survived, I'd say maybe like the best part is like Ron Weasley, who shows up for like 30 seconds just to like die. So that's cool, I guess. You don't usually see Ron in that sort of role. Uh, yeah, I
How
don't
does
know.
this guy keep
Really,
getting money?
I don't know. I don't know. It was such a bad movie. It was so like it showed everything on its sleeve in the trailer, and it just didn't go anywhere from there. It
Oh.
was bad.
I didn't see as much marketing on this one as I did the beach
Yeah,
one,
the
which
old or
was
whatever.
also very bad.
At least that had a twist,
Yeah,
kinda.
I guess. I guess.
But
I saw it
is
coming.
a
I knew
bad,
what it was, but
unsatisfying twist better than no twist? I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Because like they were already like, is it a twist if you're kind of showing what's happening a little bit already?
In the trailer, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
The twist would be
I,
revealing like how that happens, not that like there's a spot on the beach that people are aware of. Like maybe explaining why that's going on would have been
yeah,
relevant to that movie.
I'm trying to think. The last so Split was good, but I think that one was mostly because of James McAvoy
Yeah, I did want to see
being
that
able to
one.
he acted as the hell out of that movie, and that's probably what made that movie.
Yeah.
And then he made that one where all three guys come together, and that was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen.
I missed both of those.
The second one is or that the one where they have all three of them is hilarious. It's funny bad actually.
I'm gonna have to like maybe just stop watching his movies. I think at this point, I'm over it. That was a complete waste of time. I can't recommend that anyone watch that. It's just real stupid. It's not even a good. That's the thing is, it's not even a good popcorn movie. Like it's not that suspenseful. Like the way it plays out and the pacing and like you set up a premise. You did exactly what you set it up to do, and then nothing came. I mean, something came of it, but nothing really came of it. It just played out.
Did the is it a young girl?
Yeah, yeah.
Did the young girl talk as if like no other child would ever talk?
Maybe she was a little more confident being approached by complete strangers in the situation than I think most people would be. Yeah.
Yeah.
She wasn't like
That's
overly out of her age reach, but like just the fact that she handled the situation without just being complete tears is pretty hard to believe.
yeah. That's the one thing that always got me with pretty much every one of his movies. Whenever he has kids in it, it's like I don't think this man's ever been around a child before.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. All the way back to Signs and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, like those kids in that movie were like, what?
Yeah.
Weirdo, little weird. Yeah.
Well, there's nothing creepier than creepy children.
I guess, but it's not creepy. It's just like
Right.
they're not.
Out of character.
Yeah, like you're writing the dialogue as if a kid would not talk that way. Like,
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Oh, that's funny. Have you watched anything or you've been playing things? I've seen a few things on your list that I don't know if they're like movies or games based on the titles. I could go either way with Golden.
It's hard to know it. It's hard to know anymore, right? Yeah, so I introduced my kids to GoldenEye,
Okay.
the game.
Through the Switch Online stuff?
I did it on Xbox because I figured because the Switch doesn't have twin stick, does it? It's as the old style or not?
I think you're right. I'm not sure though.
So I figured might as well do it on the Xbox because you can do local at least
Right.
on there, and yeah, they had a blast.
Really?
Yeah, they loved it.
So they already thrown like sensor mines into air ducts and stuff, or they're
I
not there
they
yet?
didn't get to that point yet. No,
Okay,
it's more
that's when it gets fun.
trying to figure out where the other person is yet is still a hard thing for them to figure out.
They haven't learned to read the other parts of the screen yet. And
Yeah. Well, the textures in that game are so like
yeah,
they're all the same anyway. That it's like, oh, I know what level you're on, but I don't know where you are on, that level.
between these three
It's
shades of gray. Yeah,
yep. And yeah, it's been fun. It still holds up.
yeah. I've still like I completely missed the boat on that. Like I didn't get into playing it until like I got a 64 so late, and then by that time everyone was so good at it. I just and
Yeah.
Halo had come out by the time I'd gotten to it. So like, am I really gonna go back into Halo for this?
Yeah.
You know,
Halo
that's
didn't
good
have
to
the
know
mind
that kids
stuff as
can.
much though. Like that
Yeah,
was with my friends, that's what we played so much was just the proximity mines only,
yeah,
which is like there's hardly any strategy to that either. It's just like, haha, you ran in the wrong spot.
yeah. Creeping through doorways and looking at every angle, and yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I used to watch kids in the dorms play it, and like just like the skill level of some of those guys was nuts, and just their spatial
Yep.
awareness of that map. Because people put thousands of hours into that game.
Mm-hmm.
Because it really was the first-person shooter revolution, like 100%.
Oh yeah. And it's so weird that it's just a gold a James Bond game.
Yeah, like a weird movie tie-in
Like,
thing.
that's the
Yeah,
one. Yeah.
which led to annual releases almost, or at least a release with every movie. So every 2 years you got a GoldenEye game or a
Yep.
007 game, and none of them ever lived up to anything.
Yep.
It's crazy. And that's free. That came to Game Pass.
Yep. That's on Game Pass, so
Okay,
it's pretty easy to download and boot up and play.
nice. And the modernized controls, I'm sure, are amazing.
Yeah, that's huge. Trying to get my younger kids in, used to that type of control too.
Yeah. Yeah, once they get the hang of that, that opens up a lot of doors to pretty much all modern games. Like I feel like that's such
Yeah.
a standard, even for like third party or third person perspective games anymore.
I mean, I remember playing Halo and just anytime somebody was shooting at me, all of a sudden I'm looking at the sky or looking at
Yeah.
the ground or something, like I just couldn't get my brain around it at that point. So
I remember
if I got
oh, go ahead.
if I probably got into that when I was younger and had the muscle memory for it during those years, it would have been a huge help.
Yeah, I remember bringing a PlayStation 2 and a copy of Time Splitters 2 to a family Christmas. My older cousin, who's probably like, I don't know how old I was. I was in college, like still teens. And he must have been like 25 or whatever. He was just like pissed, like threw down the controller pissed at like, because he'd played GoldenEye. He's like, oh, these controls suck. Because I was like, that was one of the first big games that had like the proper 2 analog stick. He just could not wrap his head around it. I was like, no, it's ingenious. Like you're always moving, and then your triggers controller it. I couldn't get him to get it on, but he was just not gonna have it. So yeah, it's cool that our kids like got to step in when like people had figured out 3D technology and gaming space. Because yeah, we grew up through the Wild West era. I mean, look at the first Resident Evil, for Christ's sake. Tank controls. That was like the biggest revolution when they did the remake and added the shoulder button to like 180. It's like, and even that that was a bad.
I still don't think I could have. I still can't do it.
Yeah,
like I still can't do tank controls. Wrap my head around that.
So weird. Well, let's not forget Bubsy 3D.
Yeah. Oh, Bubsy 3D.
Well, we played a little Monster Hunter. We don't need to touch on that. Other than I'm just going to suggest to everyone that if you're going to start an online party, make sure you restrict it to friends only. Lesson learned the hard way. But I played a game that's been on my radar, and we talked about it, and it's that Blanc game, which is that kind of artsy fartsy, black and white sort of narrative adventure game with the dog and with the wolf pup and the and the deer pup, or not deer pup, deer, little deer, doe, fawn, that's what they're called. Um, so downloaded
Yeah,
that
there
and
we go.
started it. And I played, I think I'm roughly about halfway through. I've heard it's like a 2.5 hour game. And I played with my son. So I started it up. You can obviously play it like Tale of Two Sons style, where like you control both of them as one player. But we started that, and that it's pretty cool. I like the visuals a lot. Like if you've played like Journey or Tale or like Brothers, like you know what you're getting in for. There's nothing revolutionary there. It's just like a really nice art style and like a cute dynamic. It's a little rough around the edges as far as like I think part of it's the art style and part of it's just like the prompts and like always knowing where you're gonna go because like you're not always with the way it's set up, it's like not always 100% clear what's interactive or not. And then sometimes you have to be so precise on where you need to stand for a button prompt to come up. It's a little frustrating, which sucks because that kind of just pulls you out of it. Like, I think there should be some challenge, but I think also the intuitiveness and the obviousness is what makes like games like Journey and Brothers top tier games where this just kind of feels like maybe in a patch or two, right? Like it's going to work out. And there's some camera angle issues with two people running in different directions that can get weird. But so far, it feels like one of those things where it's like, it's going to be right up my alley. It's going to be just what I wanted for that. I don't think it's going to be as good as some of the other stuff, but just from a visual perspective and like a chill game to just kind of sit down and wander through, it hits.
So is it like one person does one thing to do something to unlock some,
Yep.
that kind of puzzle game? Okay.
100%. Yeah. Like jump on the deer's back or, the dog can interact with certain objects and the deer can roll a barrel. And yeah, it's a lot of that. And then you're just
That's
working
cool.
towards the common goal of like finding your parents in a snowstorm because they apparently both headed off in the same direction, which I'd like to believe is because the deer went that direction and then the coyotes parents are going to murder one of the deer. So I'm hoping it ends with you like coming upon like a slain deer. Like part of me wants that to be the ending is like these two are now best friends, but hey, sorry, bud, I gotta go eat your mom, like this is just the reality of the situation. So we'll see how that, I'm sure there will be something of that nature. There's human elements, but I haven't seen a person yet. Cause I was thinking the other direction it could go is like person bad shot, like animal, which could also play out. We'll see. I'm
like
sure
a
there will be
Bambi
something of that
situation or
tone.
something, or
Yeah, right.
yeah.
I'm thinking it's likely. I mean, I think it's a pretty short game, so it seems plausible. I doubt it's gonna be happy for all, is what I'm saying. But I think it's exclusive to Switch. The art style is really cool. It's like a $12 game. If you're into sort of those walking simulator, light on challenge, just feel good adventure sort of things, I think I'd recommend checking it out. I mean, I haven't quite finished it yet, but it feels like a solid B tier game.
Yeah. I might pick that up because I didn't know exactly what type of game that was. I mean, obviously most of the thing you see that and you're like, wow, that art style. So you're not really paying attention to what the actual gameplay is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Brothers, basically. A little more janky, but that art style makes up for it.
Huh.
And I'm sure it'll be on a sale soon. So
yep.
Who knows? Maybe it'll even come to Game Pass eventually.
Probably.
Look better in 4K.
Yep. The other Game Pass game I've been playing is a game I've played a lot, Hitman. They added a mode where it's kind of like Guess Who.
Okay.
They give you like, this person's wearing a hat. Your target's wearing a hat, and there's smoke, and they like to read or something like that. So you get into the map, and there's like maybe like 10 potential targets. So you have to go find those targets and just kind of sit back, watch them, see what they kind of do to reaffirm that this is your target,
Sure.
So, and there's a whole like escalation where you go to another one, then you get to a boss level and kind of a roguelike where you only carry the weapons that you bring back with you, and you only have unlocks that way.
Okay.
And you unlock areas of your secret base and all this stuff. I found out I'm not that good at
Being
these
patient.
ones. These ones are tough because they'll put you in a random spot. They'll be like, okay, you're in the map, now you're trespassing and everybody knows it. It's like, oh
Oh, sure.
shit. Whereas the other ones, you in the games you originally start in a pretty safe location.
And there's usually like a somewhat clear path on how to infiltrate, like, or option or
Yep.
two.
Yep.
So when
Yeah,
it's kind of
a
like
lot
when
of
it's open
times.
world like this, like there's a million ways to step in it wrong, I imagine.
Yep, you're left to the devices of what you have, and they don't have like all of the story kills that are in the normal game where here, oh, this is how you kill this person, by doing this, or they'll walk under the chandelier and all
Sure.
this all this funny ways to kill people. This is just the normal assassination stuff.
You just can't pretend you're Beetle, the traveling hat salesman.
That'd be good. But yeah, I Hitman still is one of the greatest games of this generation. I think it's
Yeah. I keep hearing that and I have access to it on multiple devices and I just have not gotten and I need to. Like it sounds amazing, but just like one of those bucket list games where it's like I want to do it, but I don't know if I'll ever get around to it.
yeah.
And that's the thing is like
It
everyone talks about how great they are and yet they're so like not in like popular gaming circles, right? Like nobody really like it. This isn't like the Call of Duty bro guy knows about this, right? It's always you hear
right.
like journalists or podcasters. It's never like just the casual conversation, which
It
is
is
funny.
weird because it is weird because it has a lot of like like Among Us is very. I mean, I guess that's a different
Yeah,
mechanic, but it's that type of sneaking and trying to kill somebody while not
yeah. Well,
being
and
seen.
through the PS2 era, like Hitman did have that level of like notoriety and like was that like in everybody's collection sort of level.
Yep,
And it's continued on and like gotten like almost perfected, and yet that casual audience doesn't seem to know about
doesn't
it
really
or
care.
care.
Yeah,
And it's still
yeah.
Squeenix,
It's
right? That makes it.
no. I think they had a dispute with the developer, and I think the developer bought it from
Okay. Okay.
themselves. I'm pretty sure it's just their own thing now.
Probably explains why it's good still.
Yeah,
Because Squeenix hasn't
that's
put out much that's
yeah.
worth.
No,
Yeah.
yeah. It's definitely worth playing. Definitely worth trying. I would say. It is one of those games though that sometimes bullshit can turn the whole thing sideways,
Sure. Ruin a
and all
whole
of a sudden
run.
you ruined half an hour of your life, for no reason,
Yeah.
which that sucks. I don't like that part, but
No. Like
you
leaving the
can
lobby
you
open.
can save scum quite a bit,
Okay. Nice. So is
not
it
in this mode, I
procedurally
don't think,
generated
but
then? If it's like, or are these like repeatable scenarios? Like it's always going to play out the same way, or like in your hat scenario, like could it be a different person like the next time you came back?
yeah, it's different people.
Okay,
So like in the regular game, it's all
scripted.
normal scenarios, yeah.
Yeah,
In this, it's just like sometimes they'll just, I'm sure they have certain spots that they'll put you
sure.
randomly or something, but
But that's
yeah,
cool because
and
then you
then
got like an
sometimes,
endless game, right?
yep, yeah, that's exactly it. It's you could go on forever. It's
Nice.
just much harder, and you don't have as much of the fun stuff. It's like you're lucky if you have a pistol sometimes, or you
Sure.
have like I could really use a coin right now or whatever just to distract somebody, and you can't do it.
Hmm. That sounds cool though. That
Hmm.
was just like a free patch or update that they did.
Yep.
Okay.
I think that's it. I think they're done with it
Oh,
because they're making a James Bond game next, which that could
oh,
be cool if they're doing the same type of thing
the
as James
same.
Bond.
Yeah, the same mechanics could translate well.
Mhm. Finally, a successor to Goldeneye.
That's what we've been waiting for. Um, what else did I have? I didn't have much. Just well, I see you got a Mario topic on here too. But I thought we'd touch quick on Mario Day because that happened in between recordings, which is March 10th. Which, as Nintendo of Japan pointed out, the abbreviation looks like Mario, so therefore it's Mario Day. Which I thought was funny because they're like, we're putting this final trailer out for the movie on Mario Day, even though we know we're ahead in Japan. It's like, maybe delay it per region. I don't know. Like, did the direct? I mean, I guess it's the internet, so you have to. But yeah, so they announced. Did you watch that latest trailer or the final trailer or whatever?
With the Fire Donkey Kong.
Yeah, and that sadistic little. I don't know what those guys are called, the star guys. It was just like, you're all gonna burn in hell. I was like, that's dark.
The Lumas, yeah.
Yes.
So they got Galaxy in there too now.
Yeah. It I don't know. I wouldn't trust Donkey Kong with Fireball. That's all I'm saying. But it looked fine. It looked like a fine trailer. The comedy we hit. I don't know. It didn't really show anything. I don't know, jaw dropping or like out of context from the others, I guess. So I don't know.
It's kind of making apparent that the Mario Kart stuff is probably going to be a pretty big scene in that movie.
Yeah. Also, it really seems like so the whole thing here is going to be rescue the princess who's my brother. So Luigi's the captive princess, it appears, through this whole film because the princess appears to be fighting alongside Mario the whole time, right? So, which is fine. I don't care. Just a weird twist on the central focus of virtually every mainline Mario game, but I don't know. The princess can be badass too. I mean, we can all agree that Luigi's kind of a little biatch. So maybe this makes sense. But yeah, I don't know that I'd picked up on that till now, but they showed him captive like 2 more times in this thing. So it's like, oh, clearly it's all about rescuing the brother.
Luigi,
so.
yeah.
Which is fine, again.
The idiot brother.
Yeah, oh my God, I went to Walmart on the weekend and they had an end cap and it was all the figures with the Mario movie branding. And those figures look so good. And I wanted them so bad. And I was like, I can't spend $100. I can't justify $100 on this. I don't have the wall space. I love them, but
the van is cool.
Oh,
I love the van one.
Dude, they all look so good. Like I was just in the big, I like how Bowser is to scale larger. Like they don't even offer like the same size as the main characters. Like he's just bigger. I was like, God, I want these. And I like picked them all up and was like fawning over them. And then the Mario Kart ones. I was just like, damn it. If I didn't already have a hoarding problem, I would so buy these. But so that's the other part. I was like, kind of the reason I added this topic, even though obviously by the time this episode goes on, Mario Day will have come and gone. But the Mario Day like deals this year were really good, like $20 off of like most of their first party Nintendo games. Which I mean, anytime that happens is a good day. So I took the opportunity and bought like the stuff that I would have never bought. I bought Tropical Freeze, even though I don't need it because I got it. Bought that golf game, which I'm probably never going to play it. And then I bought that other Mario Party game, which after the complete meltdown we had over the holidays, I can't imagine this household surviving. But I saved $60. So I was just so excited to save $60 off of all these Nintendo games.
Yeah, the $20 like selects or greatest hits are not happening. I don't think for the Switch this year.
God, could you imagine? That would be so great to see it, even if they were like $30.
Yeah,
and they just because they had it on. Yeah, the Wii U had it. The Wii U had selects versions. Why? Yeah, it's just printing too much damn money. But yeah. Great deal. So then they had that Mario bundle, which I thought was kind of lame because it was the standard Switch. So it was like you bought the Switch at normal price. It came with red Joy-Con, and then you had to pick one of the 3 Mario games included.
One or something.
But it's like, well, this would be fine if you were giving me this price and I was getting the OLED, but you're not. And what's the point? It's kind of how I felt about it. I don't know. And I think the greatest disappointment for me was that on March 10th, the deals of the day at Best Buy was like all the Lego sets, and the airship was 50% off, and it was like already sold out by the time I clicked on it at like 10 in the
Jeez.
morning. It was like, that'd have been the one I'd have bought. Like for 49
Yeah.
bucks to get the airship. And then I almost bought that like Resnor or whatever one. And that also, by the time I clicked on it, was like sold out. So,
Huh.
did you indulge in any Mario savings or no?
And no, so all the $40 ones, I pretty much had them all.
Sure.
That the ones that I wanted.
Well, then you got to
Like
buy the
you
ones
said,
you
like,
don't want, like I did,
yeah, exactly.
to save money. You have to spend
Yeah.
money to save money, Andy, for things you don't need. This is
I
how
have Tropical Freeze on the Wii U for
I know.
free.
Yeah, I beat it. I'm probably not going
Yep.
back to it, but
Yeah. The golf game
yeah.
I would play, but even $40, I'm like, that's going to be a one-time play, and I'm going to be like, yep, it's golf.
Yeah, maybe my kids will enjoy it.
Yeah, I will say we partaked in some Mario Party.
Oh,
Played around on the Superstars, and then we actually went back on the N64 went to, I think, Mario Party 3.
through Switch Online.
Played around on that, and oh my gosh, I'm wondering. So, like, like there's like just a few rounds before the end of the game.
Uh-huh.
Toad comes out and he's like, "I think this is who's going to win the game," and it's always like the person in
who
third
shouldn't.
place.
Yeah.
It's like yeah, okay, whatever, Toad, they have no chance.
And then he's right.
And then he's right, because they're just like,
yeah.
This being my wife, who ended up winning. She was in fourth place, I think, had nothing. And it was just like the last few turns, it was just like, oh, steal a star. Oh, you landed on this. Oh, you found a hidden block. What's in the block? A star. And it's just like, at that point, just that should be where next time I'm just going to turn the game off. Whatever Toad says who won, that's who's going to win. The game's over.
Yeah, that's the point where my blood just starts to boil. Like when I see his stupid little face come on, and I was like, this was all for nothing. Because you're so invested at that point, and then you realize it was all for nothing. And that's what sucks about those games. So hard. So I was reading, I have not read the whole thing, but I got my latest Nintendo Force magazine, and they did like a whole retrospective for the 64th episode on the 64. And they re-reviewed a bunch of the games, and like the Mario Party games did not score well. Like, remember how Nintendo Power and everybody was like 10 out of 10 back in the day? Yeah, those scores are not present in these current modern day reviews. And there's a reason, because it is a bullshit game that's just there to infuriate anyone who is like, there's no skill. It doesn't matter if you win mini games. It's just a complete crap show. I hate them. And then I bought one again.
Yeah, they're I don't know what to say. I mean, they're a 2-hour blue shell.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's like 20 of them. Why do we need so many? They never should have. There's no reason there should have been as many of them as there are on the 64 alone. And there was absolutely no reason to keep them going after that. That's the part that kills me.
Yep.
Just kills me.
So we played that Switch one, and it just boggles my mind, because the whole point was that they were going to remake these boards from old Nintendo games.
Yeah, like the best of the best, right?
Yeah. And you just assume that they're just going to be like, yeah, they're going to put out new ones, free updates, DLC, something.
Yep.
Not a single thing ever happened with that game.
Well, didn't they do some free updates for the other one? The first one, right? There was like something.
The first one, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know about the first one, but the second one was the one that was like, yeah, this is a no-brainer. You're just going to keep.
Yeah, you would have expected it to be the Mario Kart 8 of parties. Yeah.
And they've done nothing.
I mean, maybe they realize they have trash too. So
yeah, they don't want to.
When did this other one come out? I didn't even realize there was two on the platform. So when did like the greatest hits or
Oh,
whatever one?
2 years ago, maybe. The original,
Okay.
the
And the first one was near
Super Mario
launch, right?
Party. Yeah, Super Mario Party was near launch.
Within the first
And
year.
then
Okay.
Mario Party Superstars
Mario Party
was
go
a couple years ago.
fuck yourself is what they should have called it. Probably wouldn't sell as well though. But it has a
And
nice ring to it.
how many of the mini games can you play where somebody doesn't feel slighted?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like even on the minuscule on the smallest level, almost every mini game, everybody's like, "Well, that was bullshit. I got screwed on that one."
So this newest one, are you forced to use the Joy-Con again, or can you use proper controllers for everybody?
Yeah, it's proper controllers.
Okay, well that's a big step up.
Yep.
Did they keep like the preview game window from the last one in there as like a quality of life, or did they remove that? Do you just get thrown in the mini game with no idea how to play?
No, they do have the preview where you can just do it right there.
Just play it. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, maybe I will give this one a go.
Yep.
We'll see which one of us is ritually sacrificed by the end of it. It's gonna be like Knock at the Cabin, except Knock at the Switch.
I will say the very first one is a Yoshi map. I don't remember which game came from, but it's separated on two sides, and there's a thwomp that you have to pay a toll to get to the other side of the board.
Troll Toll. Yep.
Yeah, but you can decide how much you want to pay him, and then each time anybody else goes,
It's
uh,
more.
it's on top of that. Yeah.
So you
So
basically
my
want to
whole
try to like
strategy,
fuck them as hard as you can.
yeah, my whole strategy is like segregate the players to be just like, you guys are not crossing this bridge. It was like 30 some coins to go across the bridges.
We're not wealthy enough to come over here. You stay in the slums. I like it. It's a good strategy. Yeah, I'll never understand that franchise.
Yep.
At all.
The Mario Kart, though, some good levels that they added to that.
Yeah, so what's this Mario Kart Wave?
Yeah, those
That's
new
the
Mario
wave.
Kart
Okay,
levels.
that's your the
Yeah.
DLC wave. Gotcha.
Yep. Yep. Just played that recently. They're good.
Yeah. How's Birdo? Pretty good.
Birdo's good. Yeah.
Just a palette swap.
Yeah.
Yoshi mostly.
All the different colors you can do.
Nice.
Yep. The
Can
Yoshi's
you
Island
spit
level is
things out as
really
a
awesome.
projectile?
No, I don't think so.
The Yoshi's Island one you said was like all new for this?
Yeah, that one's really good.
Okay.
I really like that one.
Does it have like a pseudo like hand drawn art style to it, or
Yeah, kind of. It's got a
Okay.
lot of the Yoshi's Island enemies and friends and everything.
Cool.
Like at the end of the level, at the end of the lap, you even go through like the little flower gate that is at the end of Yoshi levels.
Sure. Yep.
So there's a lot of nice touches with that. And then they remade some of the Game Boy Advance game levels that we just did.
Nice.
So those are kind of cool to see on with more verticality,
Aren't you glad I made you replay that game so you can really
Yes.
appreciate it
Yep.
just in time for this? Which
Mhm.
all that ties perfectly into the Mario Day too, because this was dropped on like in celebration for Mario Day, right? Like the week of they added this
Yep.
final wave. God, how many cups are in that thing now? Like,
It's a lot.
I mean, I haven't.
And I think they have 2 more waves yet too, right? I think.
Maybe. So the weird thing is I bought the DLC for the Wii U because I was like, nope, I'm not gonna rebuy this game. I'm just gonna buy the DLC. It'll be cheaper. And then I heard that like there's some server issues, so Splatoon and Mario Kart 8 are not online. There was like some gaps or breaches, so you can't even play them online right now.
Huh.
And I don't know where the DLC ended for Wii U. Like I can't imagine it kept up in parity with what they've been putting on the Switch version, right?
Oh no, they
capped it at some point.
Yeah, nothing that came out on Switch went back to the Wii U. It was so like the Wii U had DLC, which was
it had
like
two
had
versions,
Link and
right?
and Splatoon, I think.
Yeah. So
And
this is
those
a
were
whole bunch of new
automatically
stuff.
in deluxe, I think, when it came out.
Right when you bought it. Yep.
Yeah. So this is
Okay.
all new
For
stuff.
some reason, I just had it in my head that they were always like doing it back on the Wii U too, but that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff in there now. It's they and the exciting part is so like they added Birdo. So on the screen now there's Birdo way on the top right corner, and then there's like 5 question marks below her. So
Oh,
they must be adding more characters at this point.
wow.
I hope they I don't know what they're gonna do.
I think
If
they're
they're
just going to get
just
to the
gonna
next
add
console and they're going to upgrade the visuals and they're just going to call it Mario Kart forever. Because I mean,
forever,
really,
yeah.
they did hint like
Infinity.
it's in the design that yeah, the 8 is infinity, so it's like this is just Mario Kart, right?
Yep.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to put that in. I have not played that for the Switch yet, but I should get it in, get it updated, and get everything
Mhm.
downloaded. And because I played the hell out of that on the Wii U. I mean, that was my go-to game for a long time.
Yeah, it's good. The only thing I do complain about is the tour levels. They added, I think, 2 more of the tour Mario Kart Tour stages,
Okay,
and those just suck.
they don't
Like
translate well,
they're just so like wide. Like everything is so wide
and they're
in
short
those
too,
levels.
right?
Yeah, they're just I don't know. They just don't seem like they're that interesting to me.
Yeah. God, I forgot all about Tour. I used to play so much of that.
Is that even online anymore?
I
I
don't
don't know.
know. Mario Kart Run is, or not Mario Kart Run, but Mario Run is, I know, but
Yeah.
I know they were taking some of it offline. Like Dr. Mario for sure went away,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then what was the other one that I was really hooked on was that um what was their like second game? I forget. Or first one of the first. Fire Emblem. That
Oh yeah,
one
Fire Emblem.
I played that religiously. And then it just kind of fell off.
Yeah.
But I got to the point where I had like such an OP crew that like I would just set it to autoplay. So like I really wasn't even playing the game anymore. I was just like signing in for like my daily quest rewards, and then at some point I'm
Yeah,
like, why
just
am I doing this?
seeing if you're getting a 5-star. Like,
Yeah,
did I get a 5-star today? Nope. Okay, try again tomorrow.
yeah. Now I've got
Whatever.
daily Dadish and Vampire Survivors on my phone, so that's pretty much all I need.
Yep.
So set. Well, we're probably at that time, huh? For the old weekend rental,
Staff
which
picks.
oh see, why I'm glad you're here to rein me in.
Yeah.
We have an agenda. It's on my phone directly in front of me, and I still skip staff picks. So staff picks. So since you remembered, go for it.
Yeah, I have a very exciting one that's really geeky.
Yeah, I'm looking at this and I'm kind of scratching my head.
It's baseball. Hey, it's baseball season.
You're
And
recommending America's greatest pastime.
yes, it's my what I'm recommending is the World Baseball Classic, which happens every 3 or 4 years, I think.
Okay.
Um and it's basically taking all the world's best baseball players and then dividing them up into countries as if it's the Olympics. I think baseball got kicked out of the Olympics. They don't play it in the Olympics anymore. So they're just like, we're gonna do our own, and they do, and it's kind of fun because you get to see uh, a sport where was pretty much invented here, dominated here for a very long time,
Mm-hmm.
and then going to other countries where they hit a they might hit a rock with a stick or something like that, and, and then
We're looking at you, Ethiopia. Yeah.
yeah, well, and then they play a game together, and then yeah, it's kind of entertaining. It's kind of like the dream watching the Dream Team of '92
Hmm.
all over again. You know?
Interesting. I had no idea this was happening.
Yeah,
It is worth noting that, yeah, as you've said, like that time in America, the Sandlot days, like when baseball truly was like everyone's game. And then baseball never came back from the strike. Like
no,
never came back.
no,
Not even close.
no.
Like
They tried with the steroids.
yeah, it's like, I mean, it's crazy. And don't get me wrong, it's still a hugely popular sport, but like baseball is almost on par with like the NHL. Like it's that level of like people don't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah, I think
And it's
so.
weird. It's all football and basketball.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I'm a huge baseball fan. Love it. But that's I think because it's a lot of stats and nerdy shit that
Yeah.
get into that. More strategy. You know, you could just sit there and stare down. However, this year they're changing the rules. They're having like a pitch clock, so they have to pitch it in a faster
Uh,
time.
I saw pitchers no longer have to bat now too, right? Like that's out.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
which of course.
Yeah.
The
Who
pitchers
wants to
suck.
watch pitchers
Yeah,
bat?
yeah. Like nobody wants to watch that. They suck.
Yep.
They're there for one reason.
Yep.
It's not batting.
So America is basically just the all-star team, like
Of
the
course.
best. They did lose to Mexico, which is kind
Okay.
of crazy.
Japan is
But,
also very good, right? Like, isn't
Yeah,
they're big into
Japan's into
baseball?
baseball. Yeah. We played Canada, who had like some 19-year-old kid who's like in the very low minor leagues or something like that, and we just lit him up for I don't know how many runs. It was crazy. That's what's entertaining is watching the just like I don't know how we got away with setting up a tournament and having these people come here so we could just
Yeah.
dominate.
Yeah, all to feed our egos. For
Yeah,
a sport that's dying. Yeah.
like there's other teams where like these guys are like electricians all week and they come and play baseball and then they have to play the world's best baseball players.
Yeah, it seems a little unfair.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I had no idea. When did well in this so this is just kind of like a lead up to regular season because regular season is going to kick off here next month. Preseason.
April. They usually the beginning of
Okay.
April it starts. So
This will be another year where once again the decision to leave Target Field without a roof is going to prove painful for them.
yeah, it's April in Minnesota with wide open baseball. They wonder why nobody wants to come and play for the.
I mean, like, the thing is like if you're already pouring billions into something like that, like what's another 2 billion on top to make sure you can use it all year round? You know,
Yeah.
like come on, get real.
And
Yeah,
you know,
like
like
I always feel so bad. You watch those like opening home days, and like it's like 3 guys in a parka.
yeah,
Like,
and half the guys are from the Dominican Republic and didn't even like fathom that weather could get this cold.
yeah, and I like that they installed like thermal heating under the playfield to like keep it from freezing. But I was like, guys, that doesn't fix the problem. Like, just because the grass doesn't die doesn't mean that you're not playing in like the worst conditions possible. Poor Minnesota. I don't know what they were thinking there.
No,
Yeah.
but we play football in
Indoors, yeah.
in a greenhouse basically.
Which I still need to get to Minneapolis and go inside that thing. Got to find an excuse, like a concert or something.
Mhm.
Well, my pick will probably be less exciting than the World Baseball Classic, if you can believe that. But I watched The Whale with Brendan Fraser, which, if you've seen any of the award shows lately, he's kind of like getting a lot of respect for that. Cool show. Yeah, he plays a big fat dude who's basically like eating himself to death and kind of a drama. It's not really uplifting. So if you're looking to, have a feel good movie night, probably stay away from this one. If you're looking for a very well acted drama, it's pretty tough to beat his performance and even his supporting cast. It's a touching movie. It ends probably the way you would expect, and it's great though. It's he's such a good actor who went through like such a high point and then got just buried by like I think he almost did too much, right? Like he was the guy who would do anything. Like he went from The Mummy and like he did like those George of the Jungle and like Dudley Do Right, and I think maybe his ability to not say no kind of
Yeah, I always wondered what happened there.
yeah. Because I mean, at one point he was like the biggest thing. Like I mean, people forget how big the Mummy franchise, at least the first two were. I mean, he was poised to be the action star, right? Like there's no reason he couldn't have turned out to be like The Rock in terms
Yep.
of like being in all these movies, and then he just kind of faded away. And to have like a redemption arc like that in Hollywood to the point that he has currently is pretty amazing. And this movie kind of shows why. I mean, he's incredible in the film. I also just like kept watching that and was like, how big is this guy? Like, God, if I gain like 50 more pounds, am I him? Like, am I going down this road?
Jeez.
So it was like super depressing.
He's like 500 in that
Yeah,
movie
he's
or
like
something,
600
right?
pounds. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm several hundred pounds clear of that. So I
Yeah.
guess I'm fine. But you have the thoughts in your head, like, how did somebody get there? Like, maybe I should have had that second bag of Cheetos. Like, I don't know. That's probably more of a me problem. But yeah, good movie. I don't like. I'm not. I think I've said before on the show. Like I'm not. I go to cinema and television to usually live in like a sci-fi fantasy and separate myself from the real world. So this isn't the type of thing I'd gravitate towards. But I was just kind of curious, and yeah, it's great.
And it's like about him and what it's doing to his family type of thing, right?
Yeah.
His
So kind of the whole narrative is like he's trying to reconcile with like his shattered past because I guess the premise is basically like he had a wife and daughter and then realized he was gay and just kind of abandoned them and ran off, and then his partner died and the trauma of that kind of led him to eat, and then the guilt of being an absentee father and like the selfishness he sort of felt, even though I mean was it really on him? Like I mean,
Hmm.
so it's kind of messed up. Like he's got basically like this daughter who's about to go to college. She just like hates his guts for a good reason, I guess. If you're in her shoes. Um, and then yeah, his caretaker ends up being like the brother of the lover who passed away, and yeah, it's pretty messed up. And he makes like friends with the pizza guy. He's like, "There's $20 in the mailbox. Leave the food." And like slowly over the course of the movie, they like kind of become like buddies.
Huh.
Sort of like a, well, I'm checking to see if you're still alive sort of deal, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's kind of funny too because it's like totally a pandemic situation too, where it's like only in today's society because you have like somebody who's like pretty much immobilized obesity and is still able to like do a job virtually. He's like a writing professor for a university, and it's yeah, and he just like he keeps with the premise like his class has no idea what he looks like. He's just like, camera doesn't work. Like I can't be in the video chat, and yeah, it's really well done, especially for a movie that essentially takes place in a living room, and that's the only shot. There's not much to focus on other than the performance. So if you didn't have somebody nail it, it wouldn't be the movie it is. So
that's crazy. Like when I was like saw that he was in Doom Patrol, I'm like, holy shit, he's back.
Right.
And now he's like winning Oscars.
Yeah, but he's stuck in these roles where he's either got a iron thing over his face or he's like in a bodysuit and CG. Like he hasn't gotten to come back like as Brendan yet. So
yeah,
maybe that's the next thing.
Yeah,
he hasn't aged like gracefully. He looks like a guy who's been through some shit. So
yeah, that's what I always wondered with him. Anyway, like I feel like he wasn't the typical movie like guy, big action movie star that you would, he's not the heartthrob.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was for a little bit. Encino days.
Yeah,
he always comes across as like sort of like the philosophical, like quiet guy who ended up in like, the AAA spot where you're supposed to be like this arrogant sort of prick, and he just kind of never came across like that.
Yeah.
When you watch him at these award ceremonies now, and he's like just so thankful, he's like almost in tears. Like it's almost hard to watch him at those things because he's just so genuine, but it's just completely the opposite of what you expect from like a Hollywood person.
And that's not even the most surprising guy to win the Oscar this year was the Short Round.
Oh yeah, I heard he got that. That's right.
Yep. That
Yeah.
movie cleaned up and won like everything.
Yeah.
That
I've heard more people talking about it too since you watched. I think R3, one of those guys. I can't remember who watched it, if it was Chris or Fraser, but they were just talking about it. And liked it. I'll have to still. What did you say that was streaming on?
I think
Hulu?
it's on Paramount. Paramount.
Paramount. Okay.
Yep.
I still got to do that.
It's worth a watch.
Yeah.
Definitely.
How many? I missed the Oscars. How many slaps were there this year?
Oh man, so many. They just were. I don't know. I missed
Who
it too.
hosted it?
Jimmy Kimmel.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Yep.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think he made a joke that if anybody slaps, they get a prize or something. They get a free Oscar or something.
I mean, you have to bring it up, right? I thought maybe they'd have Chris Rock back just to like seal the deal. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, he did a good 5 minutes on it on his last special.
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
What's that on?
I think it's on Netflix.
Okay, I'm gonna have to watch that because yeah, he never really addressed it. So,
Yep.
well, now is the time for the weekend rental.
We can do it now.
Okay, now that we got that segment. So the weekend rental, for those not familiar, we pick a game for a given system, we'll play it, give it some time, and decide ultimately if we would personally buy, rent, or burn that game. System of choice this go around is the good old Sega Genesis. And we're going to be talking about the 1990 release that is Target Earth. And
1990. Huh?
yeah, I think this series goes by like Spacesuit, like Linos. It's on other things. I don't really know the lineage or where it started. I want to say I feel like it started on like Amiga or like MSX stuff, and
There's a PlayStation 4 game I think about it too.
yeah, there was like a reboot. But Target Earth essentially is like a futuristic mech game. You get dropped in a space suit, robotic suit out in space, and you're given very pointed military missions as to what you're supposed to do in each level. You get to pick your loadout. Great intro, cool story setup, excellent sound for a Genesis game, cool visuals overall. I suck so hard at this game. The difficulty and the learning curve. This is brutal. This is Dark Souls brutal.
Yeah, it's unapologetic. There's so many. It's at some points on this. There's so many enemies shooting you. You can't possibly pick and shoot at one person.
Yeah,
like they're going to hit you.
Yeah, you really almost have to unlearn everything you've learned about video games, which is destroy everything that comes at you. Because if you do that, you will never complete the objective in most of these levels. Like you literally just have to like swim through the hordes to get to your key attack point or your strategic target. And it is so much trial and error to get to that point. I mean, I want to say I played the first level like 25 times before I figured out how to finally beat it. And that's not a joke.
No, I feel like this is a like stop the rental people type of move on the first level, because I found the first level to be very hard as well. Yeah. It got easier after that, actually. The first level, as soon as you get like halfway through, it says, oh, there's a warship coming to the base, and there's a clock on the bottom with a countdown.
Yep.
I mean, anybody else is like, okay, whatever, and you just keep going right, because that's what you do in video games. You just keep going right.
Yep.
And then you get to the end of the level. You can't go right any farther, and then you're shooting everything, and you're like, I don't know what's going on. And then everybody back at home base is screaming because they're like getting murdered by this warship, and you're like, the lack of communication happened here. I don't know what happened.
Yep.
I did that a few times trying to figure out what am I missing. And yeah, you basically go halfway through the level and then go back and shoot the warship as it comes back to your base.
Yeah. And then the harsh reality of learning that like as much as it might benefit you to jump and shoot at that thing, even remotely touching a pixel of it is an insta death. So it's like, okay, I have to give up on this strategy like really quick because you have to basically ignore everything that's happening on the ground in the game, which is
Yep.
dozens and dozens of enemies that are all trying to murder you also, because if you can't light up this ship that's over your head fast enough, it's not going to matter anyway. It's like it's just this bizarre case of like walking out into a level and ignoring literally every enemy that comes at you except for the on-screen prompt, and then just taking the beating from the guys on the ground because you can't afford to waste the time or ammo to kill them. So you just have to be the bullet sponge and hope that you take down the ship above you. It's such a weird introduction to a game. But it does kind of set the tone going forward as to what to like. Pay attention to the dialogue. The story beats are going to matter, and the target is going to be important. It's like if you pay attention to that stuff going forward, it becomes a much more like strategic game. I wouldn't say it gets any easier, but you learn that your main objective is just to learn the objective for that level, and that's the
Yeah.
key to unlocking progression. It isn't to go on the screen and shoot everything in your path. That will get you killed.
Yeah. And it kind of reinforces that kind of like military mission
Yeah,
sort of
operatives.
vibe because you end up getting a lot of like guys next to you. Like there's other guys in assault suits
Yep.
hanging around you that are on your team. They don't seem like they do a lot of good, but at least it feels like you're in a war zone. Like there is a kind of like, oh, we're in a war zone where there's fighting between hordes of people and we're
Yep.
trying to do a certain mission.
Yeah. It definitely does a good job of making you feel like you're part of something larger, which is pretty cool.
Yep.
You don't see a lot of that in this era of gaming. And I did like even that second mission. I think it's the second mission, right? Where you call in the support guy. Like some dude just flies over to ship. He's like, "Hey, you want coverage fire?" Okay.
Yep.
And he just
Yeah.
like flies along with you and like starts nuking stuff. It's awesome.
Yeah. That level's fun.
Yeah. And then, just being able to, like I said, being able to pick your loadout, and they're pretty generous with the loadout. Like I think you take like 6 or 7 items, be able to change how you're firing. Again, it's great, but a huge learning curve there too, because like you don't really have the time to be able to cycle through weapons and figure out what they
Hmm.
do and what works best for each enemy. So it's a lot of trial and error. This game is not forgiving at all. I don't know if there's a save system. I don't know if there's a password system once you get to some point, because I never got that far. It's pretty much just an insta death screen, which can happen as soon as like 10 seconds into a level.
Yeah. If you run into a guy with a big gun, you're done.
Yeah. So having, emulation, or in this case on the Nintendo Switch Online, the ability to save state and rewind helps a lot. But this is very much one of those games that if you were playing this back in the day, you were probably gonna, like Andy said, if you the rental barrier, you would just throw it down and never get past that first level, or like a lot of us did, you'd just be the kid who memorized it and this was your game, and you figured out how to get it done. And I don't know, I kind of respect games like that, and I feel like there's a lot more that this offers than I was able to get to in my current skill level. So I don't know, kind of took me by surprise. I really thought I was going to come in hating this thing when I started initially playing it, and I kind of came around on it a bit.
Yeah. I, I'm not a big fan of like really hard games. But I feel like this one at least knew what it was that it was being that,
Yeah.
because I mean, so this is probably one of the first games that has health that regenerates,
Yep.
um, which surprised me for especially like for 1990, a game with regenerating health like that.
Yeah. If you
It's
can
pretty
stay out
cool.
of fire long
Yes,
enough.
that's the hard part
Yeah.
is trying to find a corner where, um, and the enemies respawn off screen constantly. So
Hmm.
there's no like just getting rid and sit. Um, but I was really impressed with what they did, um, kind of changing you have the same controls and the same gameplay, but they changed the verticality of it to kind of make it feel like a different game in some spots.
Yeah. Almost like a shooter, or like a Sinistar sort of vibe, where it's
Yeah.
like the top down, like go anywhere sort of shooter.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. I thought that was pretty cool too.
Yep.
And I do like just the verticality in the base levels where you are on the ground, like having like the different terrain and like ridges to jump off of, and like they could have made it pretty boring, right? Like a typical platformer where it's just like here you're running across in a straight line, but just that little touch, which is probably intentional to like break up what is just an onslaught of little green blobs running towards you, but it makes all the difference and kind of gives the game its own personality that you didn't see a
Yeah.
lot back then.
Yeah. And the part that, this happens to me with a lot of games is that if you give me a weapon that has unlimited, I'm going to use that because
Right.
the other stuff I don't know. It's good stuff. I want to keep it when the spot that I need it, and then I end up never using it.
Yep.
Um, so I ended up using just the basic gun for most of this. The spread shot really helps in a lot of spots.
Yeah. Spread shot's great.
Um, there's a lot of other ones that are more specialized, I would say, that are really hard to do in a fast action when there's like 5 guys jumping around you in a circle, and
Yeah. It's so
you're
much
trying
to
to
juggle.
switch weapons for like one bomb and then try and set where that bomb is going to go. It's just like, nah, that's too much.
Yeah. I agree. A lot of trial and error.
Yep.
But
Um, there is one. I think the level after that you got to. It is amazing how many sprites they just have on screen. Just like there's
oh,
like
really?
8 people just trying to kill you, and my strategy was just basically to just jump and keep running, and eventually a couple times trying it, I finally got to the point where it's like they open a hatch and you go down the hatch.
Okay.
And then from there, it's like a maze, a vertical maze that you're going down. And it's just these turrets that are shooting you. So it's basically like trying to survive all these tunnels and maze underneath the ground, get hit as least as possible. And usually you can find a spot to stop and regenerate all your health and then keep going,
Sure.
which I thought that was a lot of fun. You get down to the bottom and there is a boss that's kind of like the bad guy in Tron, kind of
Oh, sure.
just a spinning guy, and he throws bombs at you. Could not beat him.
Oh,
Could not beat,
really?
no matter what. I could not beat him. Not a single thing I could do. I even broke out like rewinds and stuff like that. Like you cannot beat what I don't know what you're supposed to do because you can take 2 hits and you're dead, and he has homing bombs on you.
That sucks.
So I don't know if I had the wrong equipment with me or what, but yeah.
That's one thing too to note with this game. Like I don't know the exact runtime, but this very much feels like a game that probably has a total of like 7 levels you can beat in like 40 minutes if you know exactly what you're doing.
Oh yeah.
But it just tries to throw so much at you at once that like making that in a single run, I think, is gonna be tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious now to see like check out other games in the vein like that PS4 one that you mentioned. Like, would be cool to see. I'm gonna have to-
Especially if they have, more options.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know. Probably time to give it our scale on buy, rent, or burn. I'll let you go first.
I think I'm gonna buy this game.
Really?
I Yeah, I had quite a bit of fun with it, and usually these games that are this hard and the ones that, especially the ones that regenerate enemies off screen,
Yeah.
that's something I just have a really hard time dealing with anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but for whatever reason, this game made that a little bit more manageable because half the time you're just jumping away from them. You're just like just running basically
Yeah.
because like sitting there and shooting them just doesn't seem like a viable option
No.
in a lot of ways. So I could deal with that. And I just like how there's different objectives. It's not just go to the right, get to the end of the level. It's
Mm-hmm.
this is going to happen. You have to get here. You have to get back in the ship. You have to, get to this spot, and there's
Yeah.
all while basically, and having some verticality that feels like it's a different gameplay altogether, but it's not because you're doing the same controls.
Yeah. Yeah. How cool is that? Now that you mention it, like to get to like in a 16-bit genre, to like get to an end of a level and a evac ship flies on screen that you hop into and take. I mean,
Yeah.
that's cool. Like that didn't happen back then.
Yep. I was surprised when you said 90. That's
Yeah.
pretty early.
Yeah. I was really impressed with it too. Especially once I broke through that like initial barrier. It's kind of, it's kind of like any of those games, like the Souls games or something. It's like the reward or like the high you get from like finally figuring it out kind of makes it all worth it. And then once you know how to do it, it's repeatable, right? Um, I I really appreciate it. I can't give it a buy. I would definitely give it a rent. I think it fits that well, especially. I guess I haven't looked to see, but especially if my theory is correct, and this is probably not an overly long game. This is probably something that if you had a weekend as a kid and a little bit of patience, you could get through.
I think I looked it up. It was an hour. So
Okay, that makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it fits that rental well. I could see it being a buy. I mean, this is definitely one of those games where like you can tell that this is somebody's like favorite game, right? Like
Oh yeah.
this is definitely like this hit every note for someone and they played the hell out of this and they revered
Especially if
this.
you were into Gundam, you would be
Sure.
love this game.
Yeah. So like I could totally get people wanting that. For me, it's definitely a respectable game and I'd give it a rent. I was surprised in multiple ways, and then it does get its hooked into you. It's pretty cool. Plus, who doesn't like giant robots and space? Come on.
Right. So the second one did come out here.
Okay. Was it same name or did they change it?
It's Cybernator for the Super Nintendo.
Oh. All right.
And then they made a Saturn and a PlayStation 2 one that never came.
Huh. Interesting. So where does the spacesuit one come out? Is that like the branding overseas?
Yeah, Assault Suit Linos.
Yeah,
Linos? Yeah.
So that's what it was. And then it's one of those situations where it came out over here and like always under a different name and not as bad as Wonder Boy, I guess, but
yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm glad we tried it because it's kind of got generic enough artwork that I could see this just getting forgot in the shuffle pretty easily, even on the Switch Online. So, but I think that'll probably do it. Another episode down.
It is. You can reach us if you'd like to give a comment. You can reach us at weekendrentalpodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter. It's probably another good spot to find us. We do podcasts every 2 weeks, so make sure you subscribe. Hey, why don't you give a review if you like us?
Ooh.
Why don't you give a review?
Yeah, that would help. I was looking at the Apple podcast thing. It's been like 3 years since we've gotten a review. So yeah, if you got a couple minutes, I mean, I don't care which platform, helps us out.
Yep. Give us a 1-star. I don't care. Who cares?
I mean, can we shoot for 2 at least?
Give us a rental.
Yes, please.
Until next time, be kind, rewind.